See, that's your thing. I never mute mics because I forget to.
Yeah, no, I'm quite aware of the muted mic. So, welcome in Thursday morning edition Oxford Exxon Podcast here with you this morning. We'll go to Jeffrey Wright here soon on the Raptors Music and Food Hotline. We'll talk some college football. We'll talk probably some NFL. Mississippi State already hiring their next football coach. Zach Arnett will be the new head man. It's not a surprise that he's in charge. Be a little surprised they gave a full-term contract. So we'll talk about that and more. Ole Miss basketball losing 72-61 last night to UCF here in Oxford. They were down
21-0.
there at one point. Got it back to 10 at the half. Got it back to, I think, 4 at one point, and then it went back out to 10, and they lose by 11 there at the Pavilion last night. So we'll hit those topics and more coming up today on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Again, the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. Lunch specials every single day. They change up. You get a any size fountain drink and bread there with those, and also ribs tonight.
I mean, I'm looking right at your volume level. It's going. So
no, we're good now. There's a 45-second.
Oh,
yeah, it's a pause. 45 seconds. Ribs, hot case, plenty of options there at the Blue Sky location here in Oxford. Side items, desserts, and more. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900's the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours, right down to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest completely up to you. You can shop it around, do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today, 662-257-1900. Jeffrey Wright's about to join us. If this works, about to join us now on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Be a great place. Perfect place, in fact, for your Christmas party or gathering. They can accommodate parties of 10 to 500. Great food with a Cajun flair, holiday drinks, and a festive atmosphere. Call Jeannie at 601-842-0948 to request a catering menu and reserve a date today. Jeffrey, how are you?
Good morning.
Oh, my God, it works.
You have no idea how excited we are that the audio went through and had no issues right there. I mean, beyond words.
Just not even excited, just kind of shocked. I mean, you expect chaos.
Didn't y'all get this studio professionally done? Like, I get when stuff doesn't work when us asshats do it, but, like, didn't y'all get this one professionally done?
Yes, but
it's still in the process.
There's still a process, and there's still a.
What, did you lose the instruction manual?
That's fair.
Okay.
There, I had to watch. Let's see. Yesterday, I had to watch a video to learn how to do this.
Did you?
And I did. I now understand why the kids. Everything with them is, Dad, just watch a video. Just YouTube it, Google it. Everything. You know, I grew up in an era where, you know, you looked at a map and now you just say, you tell your Siri to get you there, and they do, damn it. And you just follow the directions. I mean, Siri could take you off a cliff and you would just go.
It's really,
I mean,
go ahead, Jeff.
When we were in France in May, like, Aaliyah wants to have the phone and wants to have the directions. Like, no, sweetie. Like, if we just start figuring this out, like, it'll be easier for the whole trip. Like, yeah, you might take an extra 10 or 15 minutes on the first couple of times, but it's like, if you actually figure out where you're going and how a city's laid out, like, these cities are laid out with great designs. Like, you're better off. But yeah, now we're just gonna watch. You can literally learn how to play, like, the guitar like Eddie Van Halen in 25 minutes on YouTube.
Fix any home appliance issue, whatever you got, it's all right. Correct. There. I mean, it's.
I installed a screen, whatever, not a screen door, but, like, I installed, like, a new latch on a screen door from a YouTube video. Thank you.
What'd you order?
A sausage McGriddle.
Double secret.
Turn Jeffrey up just a touch.
Well, and a chicken McGriddle.
Things never said before.
I was off the dollar menu. Chicken McGriddle, sausage McGriddle.
I got your Christmas card yesterday, Jeff. Did you? Was there any fight on putting the cat on the Christmas card, or was that just a no-go from the very beginning?
the only opinion that mattered for me on the Christmas card was I got to choose between the background color of green or white. And so I think we went green last year, so I said white this year. We did have some breaking news about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. During Christmas season, because the cat cannot help herself, she just eats the Christmas tree left and right, and she throws up maybe 2 or 3 times a day. There was somebody else that might have uttered, "This is our last cat."
Ooh. Did you get that in blood writing?
Where she struggles is she likes to think I don't remember things. She likes to think I'm not listening, but I catalog it. And I think honestly, this video might be whatever. Please put this on YouTube because this will be used as evidence.
We can do that just to keep it there for posterity's sake.
You know, there is one
exactly.
one surefire way to deprioritize the cat.
Christmas Vacation style?
Well, you could do that.
That was not what he was insinuating.
Not what I was insinuating, but that is the thought.
That is one fried putty tat.
Switch the rafters to a different color. That's kind of weird on the red.
All right.
I don't know, like darker maybe. We'll get into a few things, Jeff. We haven't talked to you yet, though. Not to be overly long with this. We've hit it all week, but what comes to mind with you with Mike Leach with everything that's going on this week?
I think you can make the argument he's the most influential figure at the minimum in college football in the last 50 years. I think you can make the argument he's the most influential schematic figure in football in the last 50 years. I mean, if you look at the sport today, you know, it's largely an entertaining product because of him. And it was trending towards a very unentertaining product for a very long time. You know, I was also pleasantly surprised and somewhat blown away. You know, we talked about how, you know, there's some people in the business, particularly our business, that would badmouth him, and really you realize, oh, it's because of his political leanings. I enjoyed all those people that had to like write nice things about him this week. Like it had to have killed 40 in Alex Kirshner, but I enjoyed watching them have to like squeam a little bit. Dennis Dodd too, you're included. But I was pleasantly surprised. At just how significant of a figure and the amount of praise that was given to him.
So obviously there's trickle down. I mean, high school football has definitely changed because of what Mike Leach has done.
Profoundly.
Well, yeah, to an extent that's hard to fathom.
I actually taped along those lines.
Yeah.
I taped with Pete yesterday for the preview show. And we started, and I won't spoil it here, but we ended up doing 10, 15 minutes about Mike Leach's impact on high school football. And I think you could argue, quite effectively, that ultimately his legacy will not be as a college coach.
Right.
It will be what he did for high school football, because you trace his career and you see it happen in those states, and the way that high school football looks is completely different once Mike Leach left a place.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I would argue even the way teams practice was changed because of Mike Leach. I mean, we used to do the drill where all 5 quarterbacks would throw, you know, you run plays on air and all 5 quarterbacks are throwing so that you could rep and get more, practice reps. I mean, he changed the way people practiced.
Is there a movement up to where any of the more pass-happy way the NFL has become is taught to Leach?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at how many people wanted air raid. Now, the difference between him and a lot of other people are he stayed pure to the air raid, whereas everyone else wanted his concept and wanted to adopt what he did, but they wanted to take other aspects of it. I mean, Tom Brady uses a ton of the air raid. I mean, yeah, you can see basically if you see anyone running two receivers underneath, like running a mesh route, like that's Mike Leach.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you see that at every level of football.
Yeah, so much of, I mean, and you're right. Leach stayed very true to his offense. Obviously he amended it some, and he, would add wrinkles here and there, but for the most part, he did his thing everywhere he went. I mean, you knew when he went to Washington State, you knew what they were going to run. When he went to Mississippi State, you knew what they were going to run. So it worked.
No, I mean, and there would be people that would, criticize him for that, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I think the methodology behind it is pretty sound. Hey, I want my quarterbacks to be able to get to the line of scrimmage, get us into the right play, and I want us to be effective that way. I mean, how is that any different really than any other football?
Were you surprised, or is that expected given the immediacy of what is needed, that they didn't just make Zach Arnett the interim, but went ahead and gave him the full contract as the new head coach?
Surprise isn't probably the appropriate word. I don't really know. Like, I know in a vacuum what I would have done, and what I would have done is, and I said this on the air, if you think Zach Arnett should be your head coach, make him your head coach. But if you're just make him your head coach because it's an emotional moment and you don't want to do this staff wrong and whatnot, I don't think that's a good reason for making him your head coach. But I also acknowledge that's kind of impossible to armchair quarterback that one, because I can't imagine like what's going, you know what I mean? Like, are you really going to go put that entire staff on the street?
Well, the other thing you don't know, and I'm listen, college football has never been more cutthroat than it is today. So while these schools are putting out the social media things and painting their, and who was it? Was it Arkansas that did the stadium, lit the stadium in maroon?
Did they?
Yeah.
A&M put it on their board. I saw multiple places.
I mean, it's a nice gesture. At the same time, a lot of those schools are calling the kids. So
for sure.
You've got to do something.
You got to plug it up, yeah. And
there was some immediacy, and here's the thing: not to rip on Mississippi State at all, because I think I would say this about Ole Miss to some degree. Lord help.
Is it your iPad?
It's my iPad, and it's.
We could probably turn that off too.
I can't turn the iPad off.
No, I mean we could kill the.
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out in a minute.
That's fine.
Things we'll learn as we go. I'm not sure how attractive that job would be today. I mean, we're going to talk Ole Miss basketball a little later today, right? We're going to talk Ole Miss basketball later, and a lot of what I'm going to say about Ole Miss basketball is going to piss people off, and what I would say about Mississippi State football would probably piss a lot of their people off. It's the 13th best job in the league right now because of NIL. And so when you go out and you make phone calls to the John Sumralls and Troy and Kane Womacks of the world, I'm not sure they take those jobs.
We're also not sure if they didn't sort of already have an agreement with Arnett. There's a lot of talk out there from people who at least somewhat has an idea what's going on inside that athletic department, where Arnett didn't take the Auburn job or didn't take some of these other things simply because he knew he was the next guy, whether it be at the end of this season or at the end of next season. That really no one at Mississippi State thought Mike Leach would be coaching definitely past 23, but then potentially even next season as well.
Yeah, and I mean, who really knows what is or isn't true? I mean, let's be clear. Zach Arnett would be a candidate for other jobs. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, it's part of what we were talking about. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. Part of me wonders how much of Jeff Brom taking Louisville is, hey, I want to go home, versus hey, man, I think these jobs that are at the bottom part of the conference, even though I'm probably making great money, these are going to be really, really hard jobs. And I kind of want to go reset. I mean, I think you can make that case about Mississippi State. I do wonder if Mississippi State put, $8 million a year on the table. I feel like they probably could have gotten some of these names that are like, oh, I wouldn't take that job. You said $8 million, right? Okay, well, we got to keep it quiet. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a lot easier for a lot of these guys to say they wouldn't take that job when they don't have the choice to take that job.
State also has no AD, and I think for most of the people around that program, Arnett was probably their number 2 choice anyway. And there's a huge group that wanted Brian Johnson. I don't think Brian Johnson would have ever taken the job, but Arnett probably was just kind of up there, even with those guys being possibilities. I just think they wanted that dude. They didn't want to lose him, even though other than Mississippi State, his only other significant experience is San Diego State? Am I missing something? I think that's right. I think he's only been a coordinator at San Diego State prior to State.
Yeah, I think he's a Chuck. What was that guy's name? The guy that was at San Diego State before Brady Hogue, and then he went to New Mexico as a defensive coordinator afterwards. I think he's like that guy's tree.
But getting back to this topic though, because it's something that I think is relevant. And I think you see it with Mississippi State. You see it with Purdue. If you're they're great jobs because they're money. But if you're at the bottom quadrant, holy cow, man! I've got to tell family to get me out of these texts.
Well, we can at least you can silence that one text chain. At least
I've just left one. I hate to leave.
No, I don't mean leave it. Just silence it.
Yeah. Do you know how to mute? You.
I've got everything on.
It's like on Twitter.
I know.
We'll deal with it in a minute. It's okay.
Yeah. These bottom quadrant jobs in Power 5 leagues are going to have to hire older coaches. Young coaches are going to view those jobs as graveyards. Young coaches are going to be more patient. They're going to stay at the South Alabamas of the world another year or two. As long as they're winning, they're going to follow the Billy Napier path. And that Napier is one of the most interesting guys to watch in college football, because if Billy Napier ends up winning at Florida and winning big, he will have blazed a completely different path for young coaches. Now, if he doesn't win big and he gets canned in 3 or 4 years in Gainesville, some of these guys are going to look at it and go, yeah, screw it. I just got to take the money when the money's there. But some of these guys that are like Kane's a great example. Kane's 36 years old? I mean, he's about to go, assuming they win their bowl game, and I think they will. He's going to go 11-2 at South Alabama in year 2. He's got 21 starters back next season. He's got a chance to do it again. When the lower tier Power 5 schools, he's got ties to Indiana. When Indiana comes to Kane Womack, does Kane take that job, or does he go, nope, you know what, I'm going to wait? It's a gamble, but I'm going to wait.
Don't forget who brought Kane to Indiana. I mean, Tom Allen was a hot name. I mean, I think that the other thing you're going to see is on the flip side, I don't think you'll see as many people be patient. I don't think they'll be as loyal to some of these jobs. I think they're going to – I think if they have a good run, they're going to get out of there. I also, though, I do think we should be fair and point out a lot of these lower-level jobs, it's not that difficult to have a run. It is difficult to build something sustainable. I actually thought the most interesting move to me was what Sean Lewis did. Sean Lewis is at Kent State, which is considered to be one of the worst jobs in the MAC, and he had a little bit of success there. And lo and behold, he was never able to get out, and so he goes and he takes the coordinator job at Colorado. I took note of that. I think there's going to be some of these lower G5 jobs that people – I think it's going to be harder and harder to go from G5 to P5. That's my premonition right now.
Well, it's so job dependent because, a year and a half ago, we did the, hey, as soon as you can get out, get the hell out. That's been our comment for so long. You look at, the Hudspeths of the world, and maybe that's a bad example, but people who've been through a bunch of smaller schools that waited that 1 or 2 years too long. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why that was the one that came up, but whatever. But, I mean, even Jamie Chadwell, I mean, his star fell a little bit through Coastal with James Madison getting in the league and different things. I mean, things change in such ways that if you're going to stay, it better, by God, be a job like if Summerall thinks he can just win 10, 11, 12 over and over, because at a group of 5, even if you go 9-3, you sort of fall out of that category anymore. I mean, you got to win a lot of football games. The Sun Belt's pretty damn competitive. It's still a hell of a gamble to do that. I think I agree with you in certain aspects, but at the same time, it's still one of those deals where if you can get out and move, do it. The MAC is interesting because you mentioned him at Colorado, but I mean, even a guy like Jason Candle. I mean, he was a dude who years ago, that's all one of the main guys. Hey, this dude's waiting on the Big Ten job, or he's going to get this. He's still coaching Toledo.
Hey, what do we think?
To Neal's point,
go ahead.
Well, to Neal's point about older coaches, where I think Neal is spot on is the fact that, as the money continues to grow and grow and grow, it's like any business. When you're paying big time money, you're probably going to be a little less risky. And so I think you're going to start to see these established guys that are older because, the quote unquote board of directors want, if they're going to spend that kind of money, they want something that's a little safer and a little more of a sure thing. The question to me though is, if you're going to start, if we talk about these, these lower quartile jobs, to kind of bookend it or tie it back to what we started the conversation, are these schools going to have to start going more outside the box? Are they going to have to go find another Mike Leach? Are they going to have to go find someone that, maybe does it against the grain? Because in the end, I think Chadwell took liberty for the simple reason of, hey, man, the guy that just had the Liberty job has more skeletons than I do, and he just got the Auburn job. So they'll pay me $4 million.
It was a 400% raise and going to a league where he can dominate it from a resource standpoint and then get the next gig from there while making a ton of money. Made all the sense in the world for Jamie Chadwell.
And then all he had to do was, put out that statement about how much he loves the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's it. Worked for the last guy. Speaking of out of the box, is anybody else noticing Deion Sanders at Colorado? They're recruiting a little better than people thought they would recruit. Kids are interested. I mean, is it possible that Colorado hit the home run here?
Yeah, right.
Sure,
I mean,
maybe.
I was never in the camp of. I understood what schools were doing. I understood that schools were like, hey, let's let somebody else go first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it comes back to what I was just mentioning. I think there are plenty of people that were interested, but Deion just feels so risky that you sit there and you go, let's see him do it somewhere first, and then if it works there, we'll go get him. But I mean, let's look at what the sport is today. The sport is turn the roster over immediately. It's get as good of players as you can. And it's kind of like a show. How does Deion not fit that perfectly?
Yeah, Deion was always going to recruit. The question is game and roster management as far as when anything goes sideways or there's adversity or just handling stuff. I mean, his missteps at Jackson State that gave people pause, I mean, other than just lack of experience because he'd never done it, were all things managing the program and never about player procurement in any way. I mean, guys are going to want to play for Deion. He's put a good system in place, all those different things. And again, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just saying if it fails, that's where it will fail, is in those ways.
Yeah, I mean, but let's also take a look at it from this perspective. His staff at Jackson State was significantly better than what you would expect to have at Jackson State.
He had Mike Zimmer working for free.
Correct. So he put together a really good staff by that standard.
Sure.
And then, okay, yes, some of the way that he handled the media were missteps. But, I mean, listen, how many guys are good at handling the media?
I mean
very
Auburn
just hired a guy that's really bad at handling the media. You know what I mean? Like, Nick Saban's not really great at handling the media. He just wins at such an astronomical level that it doesn't matter.
Leach was bad with media. Leach was bad with media, but the beat writers that covered him, I mean, if you talk to anybody over there, they're like, man, sometimes we had to wait 2 hours for a press conference to start. I mean, the guy would show up 2 hours late. I mean, I'm not talking ill of him. I'm just saying there's a lot of guys that most college coaches don't care about media. They care about a handful of media. Kiffin does media stuff because he has to do it, not because he enjoys doing it.
You don't know what Deion is going to look like when he doesn't have to go quite as many sideshows, when he's really trying to do some of the things at Jackson State that he felt like were required that are not as required at Colorado, although there'll be some at Colorado that wouldn't be as required if he was at SC or LSU or wherever else on that next step if he moves up. And then I come back to this, and I get it was just one day, one interview, but during the whole Lane Kiffin, Auburn stuff, I mean, we're talking to a lot of people and hearing a lot of things. I had multiple people tell me that he did a hell of a job interviewing for the TCU gig a year ago. He did it from the hospital when he had all those issues with his feet or whatever that was going on. And he had a hell of a plan, and it's where TCU was going to hire Dykes, but they said, wow, somebody's going to maybe get a win here. And they couldn't quite pull the trigger, but it sort of reverberated through college football that, no, that's not all hype. There's a lot of substance there that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
I just don't think Deion Sanders is some type of sideshow. It seems to me that he is very calculated, and it seems like he's gotten to where he is not by accident. Because, I mean, there are a lot of former players that have tried to get into coaching that have not made this kind of impact. So I don't want to minimize what he's done. I just think, I think a big part of a lot of these jobs it's kind of like what, we've always talked about on the show. Like, don't make the mistake of thinking because you think it's a great job and it's like a dream job. Don't make the mistake of thinking that it's an impossible to do job. It's a lot like going to an Ivy League school. The hardest part is getting in. And then afterwards, it's a business where you're going to have to work pretty hard to not graduate, but it's hard to get in. I don't know. I think I'd rather bet on Deion than bet against Deion. That's personally how I feel.
Completely agree. I know you talk a lot of college basketball.
Especially when you consider like what the job is today, which is turn a roster over immediately. Well, hasn't he proven he's pretty good at that?
Oh, he's definitely proven he's good at that. I know we don't have you forever. You talk college basketball a lot on your show at 92.9 ESPN in Memphis. We don't do a lot of college basketball. We're about to talk some in a minute when we let you go, but I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on what you see from Ole Miss so far. I know you haven't watched a ton, but they just lost their third non-league game. They don't have really any attractive wins. They don't have any bad losses, but they don't have any attractive wins yet. The SEC schedule is coming. It's going to be difficult. It's hard to find 8, 9, 10 SEC wins on that schedule with what I've seen. When you look at Ole Miss from a basketball standpoint in mid-December, what do you see?
Is Ruffin going to get better?
I mean, he doesn't look healthy to me. He looks. I mean,
we're on the same page there, right?
Yeah, I mean, he looks. He doesn't have his explosiveness, and this is what Ole Miss is doing. Boy, I'm about to make people over there mad. I think Ole Miss is trying to sell tickets. When I say Ole Miss, I mean basketball. They're trying to sell tickets with, we've got this explosive team. And Deshaun Ruffin, when he was healthy, was absolutely he was worth the price of admission. And unfortunately for him, he tore his ACL. He suffered a setback in that exhibition game, which was either late October, early November, whatever, that time span. And he hasn't been the same since. And yet, he looked good against Valparaiso. But there's a difference between playing Valparaiso and playing SEC teams. UCF is an upper-tier American team. You'll see them a little bit with Memphis. They're an upper-tier American team. They're a team that will either make the tournament or be on the bubble for the tournament. So it's a glimpse into what Ole Miss is about to encounter in the SEC. And from what I saw last night, Deion just can't stay on the floor. And so without him, it's Matt Morrell, who was really good last night. Otherwise, it's a blowout loss. It's a couple of bigs that I thought they got some good things out of Malik Ewan last night. I thought they got some good things out of Josh Mballa. Brakefield didn't show. The kid from Jackson State, the fear on him going into the season sort of popped up in that game. He just couldn't handle skilled bigs. Their path to winning is just so freaking narrow. And if Deion can't give you more than what he gave you last night, which is, I'm pulling up a box. I got it in front of me. I actually happened to not throw it away. I normally clear out my bag. Deion played 17 minutes and 53 seconds. He went 1 for 5 from the floor, 0 for 1 from 3, missed both of his free throws, had a rebound, committed a foul, had 2 points, did have 6 assists, turned it over twice, and was a minus 13. I mean, that can't be the calling card for your program.
No, I mean, I've obviously not watched them as much as you have, but I've watched them a decent amount. When you watch them, they play hard, but at a certain point, it's like, if you're gonna play hard, you gotta have an elite lead guard that nobody can handle if you're gonna be like that, and they just don't. And I got a decent look at Alabama the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alabama's link's going to be a real problem.
Yep.
Arkansas certainly looks the part of a really good basketball team.
And they're only going to get better. Those 3 freshmen are only going to improve as they play together. And then beyond the 3 freshmen, look, I know they lost the kid from Missouri who I thought was terrific. I mean, I thought Brazil made them a national title contender. But Ricky Council, the 4th or whatever, is really, really good. And they've got enough bigs, and their bigs are skilled. That's what I was watching last night with Ole Miss, and it was, how are you going to handle Alabama's bigs? How are you going to handle Kentucky's bigs? How are you going to handle Arkansas's bigs? Tennessee's bigs. Tennessee's this really skilled veteran team that Ole Miss plays in 13 days. How are you going to handle those guys?
I mean, my guess is not that well. I mean, I just kind of look at them and I don't know, from what I've seen from the league, they look like, at the minimum, a bottom half of the SEC team. I suppose it's entirely possible I could be wrong. It's college basketball, but man, tell me who you feel like they're 100% better than, other than Vanderbilt right now.
Probably South Carolina.
Probably Georgia.
And probably Georgia. And after that, I have pause.
Because I'm not sure they're better than Missouri, are y'all?
Probably about the same.
Okay, so we're talking about, somewhere between, a 7 and I guess a 10-win team.
In the league, I think if you offered them 10 league wins right now, they'd have to jump at it and sign it in blood. I don't see how they get there. I really don't. I'm not trying to be negative. Chase and I did this last night.
They have a helpful schedule because they play Carolina twice. They've got a couple built-in things where you go, okay, it's an extra one that maybe you thought they had. There's this, there's that, there's whatever.
I mean, he typically plays Auburn and Bruce Pearl well,
yeah.
But I mean,
and there's
Auburn
a very critical home game against
better.
them early.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn certainly looks significantly better than they do to me.
Yeah, and it gets you, I mean, not doing the Kermit thing today. It's too early. But there's a conversation that has to happen even if you get to that place, it's like, okay, well, it's kind of what we were talking about the Mississippi State football job. If you have no NIL, and Ole Miss essentially has no basketball NIL, they have a little bit, but it's not significant. If you have no real NIL in basketball and you don't have the ability to go get it, well, what's the job? Who's taking the job?
Whether it's Kermit or somebody else or whomever, whenever that time is, the Ole Miss men's basketball coach has got to be able to generate excitement that turns into dollars.
Period.
in all ways.
Yep.
Butts and seats and dollars, whatever that looks like. Is it hard? Sure. No doubt.
To me, that's the thing. And Keith Carter was there last night, and I'm not about to try to speak.
There's a coach in Birmingham that knows how to do that.
Yeah, I was trying not to ever touch that again. I just leaving it alone. Andy beat South Carolina yesterday.
But in Kermit's defense, Andy didn't do it here. I mean, he struggled the last 6 years of that. I mean,
he didn't. He didn't.
He struggled the last year, but
I mean, from a recruiting standpoint,
that makes you realize.
No, look, I love Andy.
Yeah,
it's not a negative Andy. Andy changed his entire recruiting canvassing up after that Johnny O'Brien year, where everything kind of went, ooh, and it sort of went sideways after that a little bit.
Right, but what Andy was really good at recognizing, in my opinion, was, okay, you cannot get those guys like we're talking about, but Andy always had an undersized guard that could score. Why? Because that was probably the best player he could get. And, Andy's teams had their flaws. Being watchable was not one of them. Kermit's teams are not watchable.
Here's the thing.
It is excruciating to watch.
Here's the thing on Andy. I'll say it. The Chancellor Gumballs guy was a complete moron. I mean, he's a complete idiot. Everybody over there will admit it now. They
I'd also like Hunter Carpenter's. I want to see Hunter Carpenter's freaking PowerPoint again.
But see, here's my thing.
Where's the Kermit Davis PowerPoint?
Here's my thing about a PowerPoint or whatever. It doesn't matter whether a booster presented a PowerPoint or not. At the end of the day, and I don't want to spend much time on this. I really don't, because it's over, and Andy's happy where he is, and he's not coming back.
Sure.
That's all on Vitter. It was all on Vitter, and it was also you had an AD who knew, hey, look, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm not going to do anything that rocks a boat and gets me fired. I'm going to move on. Ross was really connected. He landed the A&M gig. It worked out for him. This was all on Vitter. It was
Vitter cut Ross's legs out on him.
Yeah, Vitter was a complete joke of a chancellor. He burned so many bridges around Ole Miss on just by being a complete incompetent boob and surrounded by people in this town who used that incompetency for their own benefit. So a lot of the people that would turn around and go, yeah, he was terrible. I'm like, oh God, you enabled it. Shut up. Those people did it too. But
yes.
But anyway, moving forward, it's here's the problem. And I was saying this about Keith last night. Keith's sitting in his seat, and I looked at him a few times. And I'm not about to begin to try to read his mind, but Keith has eyes. I mean, he does. He can see. He looks around. He's a smart guy, and he has to see what I see inside that arena, which is there's just not a lot of energy in it. There's not a lot of life in it, and we can keep making excuses for it, but it was December the 14th. It was a 6:30 game against a good team. UCF is 8-2 now. They're nets in the 50s. That's a good team, and 6:30 on a It was rainy.
I think attendance is going to be bad in the conference, and that's going to decide the conversation we're having. But Ole Miss ever has not had good December attendance. So I can't take last night. I mean, we're going to be right, but I'm not making last night an example to that. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I get it. I guess, and that's
I mean, again, we know we're correct.
It's fair, but in context, it was the same atmosphere as it was in February last year when Texas A&M was in the building.
Point, yes.
When South Carolina was in the building. There's
yes.
At some point you have to go, hey, there is no atmosphere here. Why is that? Is it because Ole Miss basketball sucks, or is it because this product is hard to watch and people have checked out? And nothing against Kermit or anybody else, but if the fan base checks out, how do you get them back? There's only one of two ways. You either start winning or you make change. That's it. I mean, we saw it at the end of Matt Luke's tenure. What stuck out to me so much that last game against Texas A&M was like, man, this is Texas A&M here. It's November. Ole Miss people always say, we want night games. It was a night game. The stadium was half full. It was like you looked at it. You looked at it that night and said, this isn't sustainable.
I just think also the big problem though with that is, on paper, and maybe there's enough plausible deniability from a structural standpoint, but the reality is the person that ran the search to hire Kermit Davis is now the athletic director. And, you can change, you can make the case however you want. you're not going to change my mind that I believe the reason why Kermit Davis was given another year is because the person that hired him is now the athletic director, and he is emotionally invested in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had that conversation, so I don't know, and I don't know that we'd ever get a real complete answer there. I have a suspicion.
Correct.
I have a suspicion a lot of it is financial.
Yeah, I do too.
And at the end of this season, I think there's going to be another financial conversation that has to be had because now Ole Miss is paying its football coach $9 million a year. And at some point you look at it and go, we can't afford to do this. And then on the flip side, you have to say, but can you afford not to do something? And I don't, and then who do you get, right? It's there's just so much there that it's a complicated thing. I'm glad I'm not the guy making that decision.
Well, I do think a big part of the equation is the last part that you just mentioned. Like, I do believe, like, Memphis just went through the same thing with their football coach. I do think part of the decision to bring back him when nobody's excited, because it's a very similar situation, part of the decision-making process was, well, who's going to take the job? And I do understand that's a difficult part.
And it's got to be the right guy. It's not as simple as just, hey, put somebody else on the seat. I mean, that's not what this job is at all. There's a path, but it's a clear path. Go ahead.
Chasing Hawes' buddies is like, go get Miller now that he's exonerated. Oh, okay. I always laugh when everyone's like, go get so-and-so, go get so-and-so. It's like, you do realize that, like, they don't take the jobs, right?
Yeah, getting them to say yes is the issue.
Oh, it's like the Sean Miller thing. I'm like, come on.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, come on. I mean, those guys are going to look at that job and go, you'll have to offer me a exorbitant fortune.
Which financially doesn't make sense.
Well, to your point, I mean, if you're paying your football coach $9.5 million, can you offer an exorbitant amount? I mean, maybe, but I don't know. It certainly doesn't seem likely.
The funds would probably have to come from elsewhere. You'd have to have people that said, hey, it's worth it to us. Here's the money.
That's what they have to do in every sport. I mean, It's not like it's government issued on that.
Right. You got.
And I've never seen anyone in my lifetime step up and go, you know what? I want to see good basketball. Here's $10 million.
I know you got to go. You guys talking Grizzlies and stuff. Grizzlies, a lot of talk about trade deadline starting to pop up. Are the Grizzlies going to make a big move, or is this roster good enough?
I don't think they're going to make a big move, but I will. It's tough to ignore that there are people in the league that believe that they could make a big move. I just look at kind of how they view their team. I think they would want to see their team healthy in the sense that I think they feel good. Obviously, they feel good about Ja. They think they hit a home run with Desmond Bain. Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing the best basketball of his life right now. And Dylan Brooks, while he is flawed, that's a heck of a fourth piece.
Yep.
I get the sense that if there's something to be done, they would entertain it, but I think they really like where they are.
Yeah, I like their team a lot. They have a deep bench, a lot of guys that fill roles. It'd have to be something that was just a no-brainer if I'm them before I risk chemistry and such.
I mean, when everyone talks about a big deal, my first question is like, well, I mean, what's available?
Yeah, I started a Hollinger.
Is whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I started a Hollinger piece today, but I haven't finished it as to what's actually might be available and what isn't. I mean, like Aaron Gordon doesn't really change the calculus for the Grizzlies.
No, he's been rumored for, I don't know. I feel like he's been rumored the last 2 years, but could they use a veteran shooter off the bench? Sure, but I think their lottery ticket on that is Danny Green.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think they have it to where Danny Green's going to come back around, middle of February, and they'll see there. I just would be – this team has always been very hesitant to cash in assets to make like a trade because they've done it. They did a big one with Justice Winslow, and it didn't work. They just believe in their ability to find players, and they prefer to have draft assets.
Hey, what you guys got on the show today?
So on Jeff's show, we got Trey Wingo today talking some NFL. And then it's Thursday, on the afternoon show, we'll have Eric. We'll talk Grizzlies then.
Hey, as always, appreciate you. If we don't talk to you before then, have a Merry Christmas. Tell Aaliyah we wish the same sentiment to you. Okay, talk to you soon.
All right.
I've got to hang him up manually.
Got it?
There he goes. How about that?
If you've got your messages up, you can swipe left, and it'll give you a way to silence that thread.
Oh, okay.
So you can
now I've learned.
You can do that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Syndergaard to the Dodgers on a 1-year deal.
Saw that.
Yeah. Everybody's making moves, aren't they, Neal? Like, guys going everywhere. I mean, all over the place.
Twins got a catcher who would have made a lot of sense. Christian Vasquez. Would have made sense. Cubs never even made an offer to Correa. Never made a formal offer.
Really?
Yeah. Just pour it on. Just let me have it.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I'm almost like in the mood for it today. Let's talk about all the people that would have made sense.
My question is, last time I checked, that's the 3rd largest market in the country. Is that correct?
That's the rumor.
Okay.
Most expensive ticket in baseball.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What's even the Pollyanna justification? I mean, like, what is even the argument from ownership or people who are in on the...
Okay, here's the argument. The argument is this. They're not close. Still a couple years away if everything goes well. Why spend a lot of money now when you could save it? Hayward's horrible contract comes off the books next year. Kyle Hendricks is a free agent after next year. You probably let him go. Marcus Stroman can opt out. God knows he probably will. That'll be a ton of money off the books. Jan Gomes comes off the books. Not that he's that big of a deal. Basically, Ian Happ's a free agent after next year. So on one hand, you'll have tons of money. On the other hand, it'll be like, hey, there's Nico Horner and Seiya Suzuki, and that's it. That's all that's there. And whatever prospects are ready to go.
You don't even have enough to build at that point and try to make the run.
They have a good their lower part of their organization appears to be pretty stocked. They've done a good job with guys that are right now in high A that next year probably are in double A and could make a move. They've got some good young pitchers that have pitched well, and they'll have a ton of money. But here's the problem that they have. And if you talk to people who are close to that organization, and believe it or not, I know a couple, and they have told me the same exact thing. They've got this computer program that they're
mentioned this yesterday.
That they're hostage to. They believe in it. And it tells them what guys are valued. And by God, they don't budge. Well, the problem with that is Dansby Swanson worth a $240 million contract? I don't know. Probably not. Does Dansby Swanson make your team better? Yes. Clearly. Dansby Swanson's what, 28 years old?
Yeah, I mean, the point being, I get this for the A's. I don't get it for the Cubs.
I don't either.
That's my point.
And so next season, when Manny Machado opts out of his deal, what's he going to cost? Is it going to be is it going to be, quote, worth it, end quote? Well, of course not. When Shohei Ohtani opts out of his deal and the Dodgers are like, we'll give you $500 million, or the
If that's the rule, then they're never signing anybody ever.
Right. And so they're sitting over there with their own TV network. They did this great big splashy emotional farewell to Wilson Contreras at the end of the trading deadline, and then didn't trade him, and then didn't try to keep him. It's disingenuous, and the fans frankly see through it. You know, it wasn't that long ago, a few years ago, if you wanted to go to the Cubs convention, you can laugh at this. I laugh at it now. I mean, I took a little boy. He wanted to go. If you wanted to get those tickets, man, you had to be online at 9 a.m. on the day they went on sale. Today, I could call right now and probably broker a deal for the Cubs convention. You had to be in line at the actual convention. If you wanted to get a decent seat for the opening ceremony thing, you had to be standing in line 4 or 5 hours early. Ask me how I know. Now, I think you could just walk in the door. Well, that's a problem if you have an organization. So along the lines of what we talked about, right? I mean, if you walk into an arena and the arena's buzzing and you're the AD, you're like, hey, we're in good shape here. Need to win, but we're in good shape. You walk into the arena and the arena's dead and someone can go get a beer in 30 seconds?
Not so much.
You got issues. And so what has to happen at Wrigley, and this is the problem for the fans, is that Wrigley's a fun place to go to a game. I don't think you've ever been.
No.
It's a really fun place to go see a baseball game, whether you like the Cubs, hate the Cubs, or feel nothing about the Cubs. It's a fun place to go to a game. There's lots of bars and restaurants right around. You take the L, get off at, take the red line, get off at Addison. You walk right there. It's pretty easy. You can walk down Clark Street. There's all sorts of brew pubs and stuff. It's a fun place to go to a baseball game. It's a historic park. They've done a decent job of restoring it. The sight lines are great. It's a fun place to go sit and watch a baseball game 1:20 in the afternoon on a 88-degree day in Chicago. It's over at 4:20. Hop on the L. You're back downtown by 5, and you're in the bars. So Cub fans have to go, you know what? I'm not going to support this product until you do something. And will they do that? I don't know. At the end of last season, there weren't many people in the games. And if that happens, they have no choice. And so when Shohei Ohtani becomes a free agent next year, and he will, I think you got to go do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
When someone goes, well, it's going to take $600,000. Okay, well, then here's $610,000. You've got it. You'll make that money back. Is it a ridiculous contract? Of course. Is it ridiculous to pay Lane Kiffin $9 million? On paper, sure. From a fiduciary standpoint, it's insane. What would it mean if you didn't pay him and you let him walk without offering him a deal, and then the next guy came in and was boring as hell and put 32,000 people in the stadium and you went 6-6? Well, people would look back and go, you know, it's kind of stupid not to give Kiffin $9 million.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is Carlos Correa worth $350 million? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Would people like me be more inclined to go see the Cubs next season if Carlos Correa is at shortstop? Yep.
Yeah, of course. Believe it or not, I was looking at Texas Tech a little last night, and did you know they're 90th in the country against the run? They can't stop.
I knew they were bad against it.
Yeah, it's bad, really bad against the run. That's the one Ole Miss stat where I went,
From a matchup standpoint, it's a game Ole Miss should win.
It's all about motivation for Ole Miss. It's going to be a road game. I don't even mean that in a sarcastic way. It's going to be a road game. It's going to be
Texas Tech's home game.
Yeah.
They've sold a bunch of tickets. Ole Miss has not.
Right. OleMissTix.com.
By the way, they are supposedly putting out a media schedule today. You'll love this.
It's the 15th.
You'll love this.
The game is in 13 days.
No, you're going to love this.
Okay.
On the 26th, somewhere around noon after practice, there's going to be some media availability with Kiffin and maybe some players.
Maybe.
On the 27th, there's a luncheon where there will be a Q&A.
At the luncheon, though.
Yeah. And media are invited. Not to ask questions or to participate, but just you can attend. I guess you can have
That's it?
Maybe that's it.
Are you serious?
I couldn't be more serious.
Okay. You've covered multiple teams. You've been doing this much longer than I have.
Yep.
And in full disclosure, I've covered only like 5 different bowl games, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And maybe I've covered just 5 really good ones. This is beyond any scope of anything I've ever seen from not just media, like forget us, players knowing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
What their schedules are. The media. I mean, the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the Peach Bowl run with such meticulous clockwork that it's hard to explain.
Fiesta as well.
The Music City Bowl runs in a way that is beyond peril to this.
The Birmingham Bowl was significantly more accessible than this.
So why?
Because
it's got a big payout. There's a lot of sponsor money behind it. I mean, it's a game in the Texans Stadium.
It's because
this is not a small bowl game.
This is because this is a made-for-TV event. That's it. This is it's run by ESPN Events. And the Houston Texans staff are the ones that are supposed to do all the stuff. Well, where do you think their priority is? The bowl game or the Texans? I'll fill you in. It's the Texans.
Well, sure. Yeah.
And so there's just nothing. Like, you know how hard it is to get to Houston on the 26th that morning right now, 11 days out? It's next to impossible.
Gas up the Clark Ford and put her in drive. And
I mean, you'd have to leave it.
Head on over to the...
You'd have to leave at 2 in the morning.
You would.
Literally, you have to leave at 2 in the morning to get there.
Just move Christmas lunch up to 12.
Not
4 o'clock, leave, stop in Baton Rouge, spend the night.
Yeah, I think from a coverage standpoint, this is looking more and more like, so you all going to put that post-game thing on the Zoom? Y'all got that Zoom, right? Someone's going to put that on video? Because it's not like there's a lot of.
If somebody says it shows the bowls are less important, well, I don't know. Are the good bowls doing it any worse? I bet they're doing the exact same thing they always do.
Oh, I feel confident that the Sugar Bowl is still rocking.
The day last year that Ole Miss got into the Sugar Bowl, we had a complete schedule for the entire week. Now it might say, "Hey, there's a media party, and we'll let you know where it's at" or something.
Right.
But you knew time-wise exactly where you needed to be and when.
Yeah. I mean,
because you only had like 24 hours to get your credential in with the face thing and all that stuff.
I requested a credential. I've yet to hear back from them. I assumed that I was approved, but I might not have been. And at this late stage,
you're probably approved, I think.
But at this late stage, it's just I don't want to fly. I'm not going to fly there on Christmas Day, so I'm not doing it. So nope, done that once before in my life. I'm not doing it again.
What bowl was that?
Citrus.
Oh,
Capital
really?
One, whatever the hell they called it, Orlando.
Did you go to Disney World?
I'm trying to remember. Did I go to Disney? It seems like I did. There was a media thing at Disney. That bowl does some cool stuff.
Yeah.
There was a media thing at Disney that I went to. There was a media thing at Universal Studios that was cool.
They're also the ones that gives all the players the big Best Buy gift certificate is like their player gift. They get like they get like $500 at Best Buy or something. Is like the way they do their.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It was.
Bowl gifts used to be a big deal, not so much.
It was pretty organized. The only negative to the Orlando game, this was no big deal, was where you stayed was on International Boulevard in Orlando, and the teams practiced out at what I guess is Camping World Stadium.
Yeah,
so you had to go drive all the way out there each time.
Shuttles,
whatever. They didn't shuttle.
Really?
No, you just went.
Sugar shuttled.
Sugar shuttle.
Cotton shuttled.
Sugar and cotton.
Cotton is really good.
Sugar, cotton, and Fiesta from a media standpoint are just fantastic. Peaches too.
The peach, and we've told the story before. What was so interesting about the peach was that TCU did not bring any media, and they had got all this food and alcohol, so they needed it gone. And they would literally walk in with bottles of liquor and go, "Can you guys please drink this? Like, can you please? Like, we have to."
And one night you said, "Sure."
There was a night that was a late night for a lot of media members. It was I've got stories. Well, I'll keep the guilty innocent, but yeah, it was. But that shows you thing. I mean, there is an unnamed person who had gotten back from wherever we had gone. I know we did a big dinner, and I guess we maybe came back to the hospitality room because there was all that stuff there.
Yeah.
And the person was hungry at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And they went and found catering trays of like sweet potatoes and green beans and chicken. It was like a full meal laid out in the media room at 2:30 in the morning just because somebody asked. And It was like, there is just nothing but either buzz to drunk people asking for things at 2:15 in the morning. And because on the bus to the go-kart thing it was nothing but Ole Miss media and that poor TCU.
Oh, bless her heart.
Student assistant or whatever that.
And that was Jeffrey was single those days.
Yeah, and so the conversation was a bit more blue, and
Jeffrey was talking about Tinder or
he was
something.
literally swiping as we were sitting there. Yeah, it was. Yeah, literally. Oh no, I was not even in the realm of some of the people there. No. I was essentially completely sober compared to. Yeah, that was a. The Cotton Bowl has a full bar for media with a bartender pretty much any time that's open. Ironically, the Sugar Bowl is the worst one of those about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They're a little more per time. Now, you're going, it's New Orleans. You'll, like, walk out the door and do whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, the Cotton Bowl made it where you didn't have – there was really no reason to leave the hotel except to go to the practices or whatnot. I mean, they pretty much handled it.
Oh, I forgot about the student who Ubered from Atlanta to Oxford. That's right.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
It was not Kellenberger. Yeah. So no, it wasn't Kellenberger.
No.
He was there, but it was not it was not him. And I look back to a second ago, just the basketball thing. Yeah, look, I get they're 9-3. It's more of what we're seeing and what potentially happens. It's not today is some death sentence. That's not the point. The point is that they had games they really needed to win to make it interesting coming in, and last night was one you really needed to win to keep that level of interest in. Because the storyline is not even necessarily about attendance last night in a singular event. It's not even about the loss. It's that there's just no enthusiasm much outside of people who are really interested in basketball, and and that exists and that matters, but there's not enough. And how do you change it? How do you get better? What do? You can't just give up on the sport. You can't. You got to get better at men's basketball. Period. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, we talk about
and
hand
it's
raise.
got to where it's again, it's segment of people, anecdotal. Sure, I don't know everybody in the world who's an Ole Miss fan, but it's almost like a running joke to find it popular with a certain segment, and that's a bad place to be. And that feels like kind of where it's at right now. And people are giving some chances to kind of get in, and then they lose that game. You lose to Oklahoma. There was the board was pretty into it that day. They had beaten Siena the day before. Was it Siena?
Yep.
They beat Stanford the day before that,
and then the Memphis game. There were people that night that were like, "Hey, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see what." And then they get buried in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, last night, Chase, I taped with Pete. We taped at 5:30.
Yeah.
We got done at about 6:20. I was ready to roll. I had to we taped via Zoom so that it had to process. And then I sent it on so that it could get edited and stuff. And I left the house at 6:32, turned on the game. Kellum and them were doing the broadcast. And by the time I got to the arena, parked, down the elevator, and to my seat, they were at the second media timeout, and it was 21-0.
12 minutes to go in the half for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's from a hoops standpoint, that's twice now in the last 3 games that's happened, and you've got to figure out. I think you have to make lineup changes. Like if I'm Kermit,
it's just too much of a fan storyline that he's calling early timeouts. It's all these little things that just build up over time where
Malik Ewan and Josh Mbala are starting because I got to at least try that. And look, he's trying everything.
Yeah.
And if I suspect if he could be honest, he would say, it's easy to say, hey, recruit better players. We live in a transfer portal era, and I don't have the NIL that other people have. And the response to that might be, well, then you got to go drum it up. And his response to that might be, well, I'm trying. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I don't know.
It's not that Kermit's not trying. He's a very competitive human being. He's not rolling out there and going, hey, I'm going to lose a basketball game.
No. He's
hyper competitive.
He's working 27 hours a day.
Yeah.
He probably cannot get this team off his mind. It's not about effort. And so it's that deal. But you're right. If you're sitting in the room and you're having the conversations and someone says, and I'm not saying anyone at Ole Miss Athletics would say this, okay? But if someone said, well, look, we're really financially invested in football. And we kick ass in baseball. Not just winning. Yeah, we won. That's not what we're talking about. But we're one of 5 programs.
Yeah.
Us, LSU, Mississippi State,
Arkansas,
Texas A&M.
Texas.
We're fully invested in baseball. We're good. Fans come. It's awesome. They love it. But I would raise my hand and go, okay, just bear with me a minute. Yeah, football, we have no choice. Good enough. But can we be honest about baseball? It's really cold in February. The only people that really go to the baseball games in February is the diehards. It's really cold in March. The conference season doesn't start until, what, March 10th-ish?
Yeah, mid-March almost.
So, that's kind of when you're a casual fan, and that's and the bulk of your fandom in any sport is the casual fan. Otherwise, we would be filthy rich. The casual fan kind of checks in when conference play starts, when the weather gets warm, when suddenly going out to Swayze at 77 degrees and it's kind of feels nice and, we're tired of winter, right?
Yeah, when it's baseball.
Am I right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I would say, football ends on Thanksgiving night, really. Baseball doesn't really start till, call it the Ides of March. I got a window there that I got to fill in. That needs to be basketball. So this idea that, we can just punt basketball in the SEC, I think it's flawed to the point that it's untouchable. I think you're just criminally wrong at that point. Nope, you've got to be relevant in basketball. You don't have to be excellent, but you have to be relevant. And when you look around at the teams that we just talked about, Mississippi State, they're good in basketball right now. Arkansas, they're nationally competitive in basketball. LSU's been good in basketball before the scandal, and they're going to be good again. Texas A&M's not punting basketball. They're trying. I'm not saying Ole Miss is punting it, but at some point, Ole Miss has to sit down and go, okay, I get it. This is going to be really, really hard, but we got to figure this out. This has to become a priority. And maybe I'm wrong, and you might tell me that I'm completely wrong. But I think someone has to go, we have to make this a priority, whether that's Kermit or anybody else. Whoever the coach is, this has to be more of a priority, and we've got to figure out how we get this done, however that is.
And that takes movement from everybody. There's not one answer. There's multiple things involved here. And I think at bare minimum, be competitive into February and early March to be able to go, hey, maybe here's
yes,
let's show up. There's that big game on Saturday against Tennessee. What if we win? And then, hey, play LSU in Baton Rouge. Hey, get that one. And,
right.
Hey, we're on the bubble.
And then, it's like Kentucky football. Kentucky football just being abysmally bad, going, we're a basketball school. No, someone finally went, no, that doesn't work. Look, basketball doesn't start until November the 10th, and it's not really relevant until around Christmas. No. We have to be competitive in football. We've got to invest in football. You see that with them giving Stoops the money that they gave him.
Yeah, sure.
That's that. And I do think subconsciously, I don't think Keith or anybody over there sits there and goes, hey, basketball, whatever. Come on, Keith played basketball. He loves basketball. I mean, that program, he's got sweat, blood, tear, equity in that program. But I do think sometimes it's easy subconsciously to go, it's just kind of not our thing right now. And I get it. I just think you got to. I think you have to go. No, in today's world, we've got to be competitive in that. We've got to be in the tournament conversation pretty much every year.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy's saying Georgia punted baseball. Georgia is the strangest athletic department in the world because we'll see what Mike does there, but they should be a top 5 program in baseball, and they're absolutely not.
But if you're going
in
to
basketball,
punt,
they do have some ability for some advantages that need to get ironed out.
That's a weird athletics program.
They also have so much money going to football right now that what's left.
Right. But if you're going to punt one of the big 3 sports, and I don't think you can, for the record. I just don't think you can. But if you're going to, you punt baseball before you punt basketball. You just do.
Well, it doesn't need anywhere near the same resources. I mean, it's not even about punting. It's just, hey, put it where you.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong. To my knowledge, there's more organization to get baseball NIL versus basketball NIL.
It's my understanding as well.
Just from a straight fans invested, how they're pushing money into those directions.
Yeah.
There appears to be much more emphasis on baseball than basketball in that way.
And I don't know how you figure that out, but you have to figure that out.
Fans spend their money wherever they want. I mean, if a group of fans goes, nope, by God, I'm funding baseball, then okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Then you got to somehow incentivize some of those same fans to do something for basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, but someone's got to go, we got to figure it out.
Yeah. So appreciate Jeffrey with his time today as he does every single Thursday. Looks like we made it through the stream without some issues or anything. Even if it dies now, we're fine. So got that going on. The phone call's working. Still getting everything kind of set up with angles and behind us and whatnot. So for those in the stream, eventually that'll get there.
One of the tables came in, the other one got delayed. It said 16th or 17th, so this weekend.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
It's all good. So we will wrap there for the day. Appreciate all you guys. Good.
What's our plan for tonight?
I mean, I hate talking on air, but I think we'll update you, but probably see you here soon. There'll be definitely content. You'll be able to log into YouTube, see stuff either way. But yeah, I think we're good there. Okay. rebelgrove.com. In the meantime, we'll get Neal's picks up this weekend as well. So you have that as bowl season underway. Woohoo. Neal headed to Vegas and Idaho and all over the place. So
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So we'll have that and more coming up. Check the stream. Different podcasts coming there. And then Brian Rippey, by the way, recorded with former Ole Miss baseball player Sean Johnson. He is now one of the top world long drive golfers in the world. So a little bit of an interesting thing there is they chatted last night. I assume that's probably up sometime today. So nonetheless, that's on the network, rebelgrove.com, and we'll talk to you.